Okay, ready? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Mount Shasta weekly ZOHAR study group. We're very excited to be here tonight, broadcasting live from snowy Mount Shasta. We're in the 30s today, so if you're in Southern California, so enjoy your warm weather. Okay, let's start. And before we begin our study, I just would like to read a little introduction in English for those of you who are joining for the first time, kind of to set the tone, to understand what are we doing here tonight. Applying the power of the Zohar. The Zohar is a book of great mystical power and wisdom. It is universally recognized as the definitive work on the Kabbalah, and it is also so much more. The Zohar is a wellspring of spiritual energy, a fountainhead of metaphysical power that not only reveals and explains, but literally brings blessings, protection, and well-being into the lives of all those who read or pursue its sacred texts. All that is required is a worthy desire, the certainty of a trusting heart, and an open and receptive mind. Unlike other books of wisdom and spirituality, including the great spiritual texts of other traditions, the Zohar is written in kind of a code, through which metaphors, parables, and cryptic language at first conceal, but ultimately reveal the forces of creation. As electrical current is concealed in a wire and cable before disclosing itself as an illuminated light bulb, the spiritual light of the Creator is wrapped in allegory and symbolism throughout the Aramaic texts of the Zohar. And while many books contain information and knowledge, the Zohar both expresses and embodies spiritual light. The very letters on its pages have the power to bring spiritual wisdom and positive energy into every area of our lives. As we visually scan the Aramaic texts or listen to the texts and study the accompanying insights that appear in English, spiritual power is summoned from above and worlds tremble as light is sent forth in response. The primary goal of the Zohar is not only to help us acquire intellectual wisdom, but more so to draw light from the upper worlds and to bring, good evening, welcome, and to bring sanctification into our lives. Indeed, the book itself is the most powerful of all tools for cleansing the soul and connecting to the light forces of creation. Good evening. As you open these pages, therefore, do not make understanding in the conventional or in the intellectual sense your primary goal. Excuse me. Although you may not have a knowledge of Aramaic, look first at the Aramaic text or listen to it before reading the English. Do not be discouraged by difficulties with comprehension. Instead, open your heart to the spiritual transformation of the Zohar that is offering you. Ultimately, the Zohar is an instrument for refining the individual soul, for removing darkness from the earth, and for bringing well-being and blessings to all the dwellings of this planet. Its purpose is not only to make us intellectually wise, but to make us spiritually pure. Let there be light.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see you tonight. We have very, very powerful study tonight, as usually, but every week is even more because you're here. So this week we're studying, what's that?
Your friend, he wanted me to bring this for you.
Who is this?
He's really handsome.
Oh, Sterling. This is our young student, Sterling.
Yeah.
Now he have a more marine style haircut. He's going to come join us later?
Not tonight.
Not tonight?
Yeah.
So
But he said Shabbat Shalom.
awesome. Wonderful.
It's everyday Shabbat.
Everyday
Everyday Shabbat for him.
So this week we studied the portion of VaYetze. And VaYetze is meaning in English, and he shall go out. He shall exit. So as we learn every week, the word exit is very powerful code. We're going to learn what it means. But for those of you who join us for the first time here and also online, just to kind of understand that we're not doing a biblical study. The teaching of the Zohar is based on the codes of the Bible, but it's called in Hebrew Torah. Torah means guidance, instruction. So again, I repeat this every week. I want to say it again. We're not here to discuss historical events. We're not here to discuss any patriarchs' lives or their biographies. All the stories of the Torah are codes. So everything we study here is a code. Okay, so just want to make sure that everybody here for the first time, we're not here to talk about the stories, but what actually they conceal underneath the stories. So let's start and we talk about a little bit on the context, because the biblical context has stories. I want to first of all talk about generally what the story is, and then jump into the essence of what it's actually, what's in it for us. So there's some really powerful stories in this Torah portion of the week, such as Jacob's ladder. You know, everybody know about the story that Jacob had a dream and he saw a ladder, and there were angels climbing up and down the ladder. So we're going to learn what this ladder is about. It's not, we're not here to analyze dreams, not here to discuss Jacob's dreams. We want to understand what the ladder pertains to us. What is the spiritual ladder, and how we can use it. Okay, so that's one thing. So the story begins, the Torah story begins, and Jacob, he left Be'er-Sheva, and he went to Haran. So what does Be'er-Sheva? It's actually a name of a city in Israel, which means the well of seven. Be'er is a well, Sheva is seven, it's the well of seven. So Jacob, he left that place called Be'er-Sheva, and he went to Haran. Now, geographically speaking, Haran is located where Kurdistan is today, which is about 2,000 kilometers, or like, I don't know, like how many miles, like 1,000 miles, something like that. A little bit over 1,000 miles. He left Beersheba, he went to Kurdistan. Of course, first of all, on a physical level, it might appear impossible. But for those of us who know a little bit about Kabbalah, it's not outside the realm of the masters of these tools, because we know that, first of all, space and time are very relative. So when we talk about he went from that place to another geographical place, which is almost 2,000 kilometers away, it is actually possible. How do we do that? The Torah actually tells us that he did kfitzat haderech. For those of you who watch The Matrix, there's a term they say with English pronunciation, kfitzat haderech. That's kind of what they say in the movie, if you pay attention.
So it's on Hebrew, actually.
It is. Kfitzat haderech means the jumping of the road. So it's teleportation, basically. He did teleportation from Beersheba to Haran. And then he went back because he figured out that he was supposed to go through some other geographical locations on the way that are very sacred to him, and he went back. That's on the story level. On a metaphysical level, what it means. Now, we want to talk about a well in Kabbalistic terms, and the number 7. The well represents the wellspring of the light force of creation. Number 7 represents the system of the 7. It represents the world of perfection. Excuse me. So in other words, Yaakov, he left that place of perfection in spiritual realms, and he went to Haran. What is Haran in Kabbalah? Haran comes from the word Haron. Haron means anger. He went from a very spiritual place into a very dark place. Okay? From one polarity to the other. Why would he do that? And what's the importance of the word exit? So just for those of you who are familiar with the world of entrepreneurship and startups, if you guys have experience or you read a little bit about entrepreneurs, when you start a business and startup, especially in high tech, you always think about the exit, right? Yeah. You know about the exit. So the exit is how you're going to sell your company. So the word exit is a very prominent word in the world of commerce today. So if you start a company like like Google, or you start a company like whatever, a new app, when you develop the company, you're already thinking in advance what's going to be your exit. It means how you're going to sell the company. And when you go to investors, you already disclose to them what is your strategy going out from that deal and how you're going to make the money. So in many ways, the understanding of the term exit in Kabbalistic terms, it's very applicable. We're not talking about some pie-in-the-sky concepts. But what is the exit is really, that's the key. What are we exiting and what are we entering, actually? So this is really what the teaching of the weeks is giving us some really powerful tools. The exit and the entrance, and how to kind of jump between the two. We know that in the teachings of Kabbalah, this realm of physicality is called the 1% reality. So when we are tapping into the wisdom of the 99% reality, we can really actually, when we apply the tools, and it takes a lot of practice obviously, we can overcome the illusion of density. Yeah. Quantum physics, theory of relativity, and many other scientific discoveries. Like, there was a movie I once watched. It's called Mind Walk. I don't know if you watched this film. It's a really powerful film. It's about a conversation about quantum physics for 2 hours. And one of the things that stuck with me from the film is that this guy explains that if you take the entire physical matter of the Earth and you eliminate the space between the molecules, the whole Earth is going to be the size of a cherry. That's how much density we have. So the space is really an illusion. So when we talk about exiting one realm and entering to the other realm, what actually we are going out and what are we entering in, and how we can navigate between these two realities. The whole point of us studying this wisdom is not, like I read in the introduction, we're not here to acquire intellectual wisdom. It's actual practical tools, how to live in the world of density, how to be part of the physicality, while we maintain the connection to the 99% reality, which is the real world. What we see, it's really very minute truth. So we want to understand what is the real truth, which is also represented by Jacob's ladder.
So basically we are in magician's class, right?
It is, yeah. And today actually we're going to reveal the secret. Are you familiar with the word abracadabra? Do you know what it means?
Remind me.
Abracadabra, it's a word in Aramaic, and it means I create what I speak. Now, I think a lot of us on a spiritual path we really understand it's true. Like we can create with our words we can create realities, we can destroy realities. So of course we talk about how we want to be mindful, but actually this week we learned the dynamics or the mechanism, how it works, how the words, how they create, how actually it's in a, if you take a machine and you break down the parts, you understand how it actually works. So today we're going to learn one of the verses, how the creation through our mouth, actually how it works. There's a technical or kind of scientific explanation to that, which is beautiful. So, okay, so let's start with the Zohar and we can jump right into the study and
let's dive to the Aramaic.
So first verse. VaYetze Yaakov מבאר שבע. I read in Aramaic and then I translate into English. So don't worry, you understand. Just feel the energy of the words and just don't worry, you understand or don't understand. It's not important. VaYetze Yaakov מבאר שבע וילך חרנה. רבי חייא פתח ואמר, וזרח השמש ובא השמש אל מקומו, שואף זורח הוא שם. היקרא וכמוה. אבל וזרח השמש דא יעקב, כד הווה בבאר שבע, ובא השמש כד עזה לחרן, דכתיב וילן שם כי בא השמש, ואל מקומו שואף זורח, דכתיב וישכב במקום ההוא. Translation. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran. Rabbi Chia opened the discussion with the verse, the sun also rises, and the sun goes down and hastens to its place where it rises again. This verse has been explained previously. The phrase, the sun also rises, refers to Yaakov, who is Ze'ir Anpin. When he was in Beersheba, which is Bina, I'm going to explain all these terms, which is Bina. The phrase, and the sun goes down, refers to Yaakov when he went to Haran, the Nukva of Ze'ir Anpin. As it is written, and tarried there all night, for the sun was set. The passage, and hastens to its place where it rises again, is similar to the verse, and lay down in that place to sleep. This refers to the Nukva called place, where the sun hastens to shine. So we're looking at the diagram of the tree of life, which I'm sure many of you have seen it before. So, like we talk about the world of the 1% reality, we live in the world of Malchut, which means in Hebrew, kingdom. This is the world of physical kingdom. And we all here learning to be the rulers, the kings and the queens of this reality. Now, when we talk about the sun, which is represented here by the Sphira of Tiferet, this entire realm, besides those three upper Sephirot, this realm, it's called the realm of Ze'ir Anpin, which means this is the power station and we're the consumers. This is how the energy flows down to this physical reality. So when we talk about the sun represents this realm, that's the power source from which we are receiving all the sustenance. So when we talk about Yaakov, he went from Beersheba to Haran, which means in his awareness, I'm not talking about the physical story, the actual where he went geographically, but awareness or spiritually speaking, he basically minimized his awareness. He went from one place to the other, from the world of perfection. Be'er-Sheva means the well of seven, like I said. So he reduced his awareness from very, very high level. Like imagine you are meditating for like 10 years in a mountain, and then at some point you have to go down the mountain. You have to actually go and be with the people. So there is a process of reduction, sort of like you have to minimize yourself, because if you're very, very high level and you want to go to speak to the layman and you want to talk to them in a language they understand, you have to reduce something. You have to shrink in a way, but not from a place of minimizing your abilities, but you have to reduce the energy so you can transmit it. Like imagine like a very powerful power station that you want to plug your iPhone. It's going to blow up. So you have to reduce the energy so it can be contained within the vessel. So when you talk about, there's like two polarities here. One is the sun, the source, and there's the power station, or like the consumer. And Haran, I was reading here, like we said, it's in Hebrew, Haron means anger. Now, anger is a code name for the dwelling or the kingdom of the dark side, of the other side. Okay? We know that in Kabbalah, that anger, when it's not recommended to be angry as much as possible, because when we're angry, we're basically putting ourselves under the dominion of the dark forces. So negative or low vibration frequencies, they're reducing us. But here, the Kabbalistic texts imply that he did that with intention, right? Like, why would we do that? Why would we reduce our awareness in some points? Because we can be like on very exalted state, like we said, you're coming from a meditation and like you're so like out there, but then at some point actually you have to reduce. You have to reduce. So the question is, if you reduce your ability, can you get it back? Like let's say you achieved a very high level and you are consciously, you're deciding to minimize your, how would I say, not spiritual attainment, but you have to kind of reduce yourself in a way.
If you practice it, you can keep it. It's the,
you can keep, yes, yeah. Exactly.
It's about practicing. You don't have to show it, but it's just like a champion is, the marathon runner. He can reduce himself and just go, and nobody knows who it really is, but he's going every day and still exercising to keep his, abilities.
Great you brought the world of athletics and sports, because it's always a great analogy. I'm sure you've seen a lot of, when I was a kid, I was really addicted to like Kung Fu movies. Like I was completely like a Bruce Lee fanatic. And I saw, not necessarily Bruce Lee because his tactic was different, but I saw some martial artists, or sometimes even Bruce Lee, like when you go to the battle, you let the rival to hit you many times. You're reducing yourself.
They don't know your power.
They don't know your power. So we're actually learning here, which I'm kind of hinting you what we're going to learn here. We're learning here a strategy, how to subdue the negative force, the dark force. There's strategy. So we're not only going to discuss here the strategy, but also we're going to learn what are the signs. How do we recognize? Because in this physical reality, we're mostly influenced by what we see with our eyes. It's very tricky because we can see some people can appear very pleasant, beautiful, and the package can be very misleading to really what's underneath. So there are actually signs that we're learning here today that are going to help us to attain, because this is really what it is about. So when you're talking about going out, it means we're not really losing. It's like imagine, again, you're going out of the cave after many years of meditation, you're going out of the cave, but do you really lose what you gain in the cave?
No.
Not necessarily.
Never.
Especially if you do it mindfully and on a conscious level, there is a reason for that. Because when we go out of the cave or out of this high spiritual realm into the world of physicality, there's different rules of the game. And part of what we learn here, we always learn the strategy of the dark side, because the dark side works 24/7. It will never stop working in this reality. In physical reality, dark side always works. We're not here to kill our dark side. That's what we spoke previously in the story of Abraham and Isaac. The code of Abraham is the power of the right side, is the power of mercy, compassion. Left side is the judgment. We cannot eliminate the forces of judgment from this reality, because judgment means we need to have boundaries. We cannot live in this reality like just do whatever you want. We need to have boundaries. So by Abraham not killing Isaac is binding him. What we learn here is how we can control this left side. And in more spiritual terms, what we learn here is the desire to receive for the self alone.
Yes.
If you're yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't
No, please, yeah.
As far as the subject of anger
Mhm.
is concerned, can't rather than repressing feelings of anger that we feel, can we not, through inclusion, allow anger to be a useful energy, like through the transmutation of rage through proactive, compassionate, creative, that like social activism comes to mind, like, and there can be a lot of like tough love kind of stuff behind that. That's like, there's a lot of anger involved in that, and rightfully so, you know what I mean? But so how do we include those energies that can seem potentially threatening or destructive? Because it seems that if we take an approach where we say that anger is a defilement or something, that can lend itself to repression and denial, and you know what I mean? I don't know if am I getting
Absolutely.
this across?
It's a wonderful question, and I think you already know the answer. And I did not mean that anger, like I said, we cannot kill the left side. We cannot eliminate the negative low vibration or low vibration emotions from ourselves. We always have that. There is no spiritual person on this planet who never gets angry. Dalai Lama also gets angry. Everybody gets angry, and there's nothing wrong in that. And even more so, it's when it's for a higher cause. Now, anger can be used, like we say in Hebrew, the word fear, for example. there is no person on the planet who never feels fear. Like we learn in Hebrew, the word for fear is pachad. If you flip the letters, it's called dachaf, which means thrust. So if you can transmute fear to be a force that makes you move forward and take action, that's wonderful. Even more so with anger. If you see injustice on this planet, that makes your blood boil. It makes you become active, but you're doing that because you're doing for a higher cause, not because you want to, get revenge with somebody. But if you see a higher cause, absolutely. So we're not here to talk about fear. Anger is a context of something completely to repress. Absolutely not.
We cannot. It's not recommended to repress anger.
It's even worse. Yeah.
But when we feel anger, there is a kind of technique how to not stay there too
Transmute,
long.
like you said, the word transmute.
Yes, to transmute.
Yes.
So I feel angry now. So I can choose stay angry for a few days. I can say, okay, I'm first of all acknowledging that I'm angry. So I can ask for help. I can go do meditation. I can go have cake. I don't know, something that makes me
You
feel
can
better.
go shoot somebody.
Well, that's a choice.
kidding,
I have
I'm
a free choice.
Yeah, of
I can
course.
do that too,
Yeah.
or I can have a chocolate, right?
Yeah.
That's why I make chocolates. I'm less angry because of that.
Well, I feel also this new age movement is just be bliss all the time, and
Complete bullshit.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So also in this talking about anger while we're in alignment with all this time for the negative. It's in alignment with this class, but I'm too so a rabbi or a prophet or a sage, how would they constructively, I don't know, be with their anger, not repress it, not oh, I'm angry, let me go pray and make it go away. Well, how about being with that, whatever that feeling is, and anyway, what's the Kabbalistic approach?
With the Kabbalistic approach, there's always there's two sides to it. There's the individual, and there's the relationship of the individual to the whole.
Mm-hmm.
If the anger is out just about you, so it's the wrong side of the understanding. When the anger has to do with how you relate, like if you see the poster behind you, Mount Shasta water protectors, right? People are pissed about what's going on in Standing Rock, and about a lot of things that
It's
are
happening
actually
here on this mountain. Yeah.
it's happening here too.
With the water, yeah.
It's not something you can start, wake up in the morning, you just go with that with bliss and pretending.
This is transmuting the anger to this.
It's transmuting. It's
Art,
actually it's
creativity.
translating it to action. You do something about it, and like I said, there's the level of the individual with itself, which is the self, which is the desire for the self to receive for the self alone. But there is the second part, which is the relationship of the individual to the whole. So when the anger has to do with what you see in the world and you actually commit to do something about it, like you're angry because there's like animals being tortured and like slaughtered all around the world, that makes me very angry, and I'm actually very vocal about it and actually active about it.
How and you commit to be a vegan, not eat animals. So you did some action.
Yeah, but also even on the bigger level, it's not just about me, but actually I do different pieces of art or promotion to awaken this understanding in people. That's example. So I don't want to get into that, but I think you got the point. It's basically you transmitting it. You're not denying it. You're not repressing it.
Yeah.
But there's other aspects that can be like from, let's say, we're angry because our father did something when we were kids, right? So this is something like you can, many times it's not always resolved by transmitting. You can say, okay, I'm going to transmit, let's say your father is not around or mother, whatever. How do you transmit that? Sometimes you have to do inner work. Let's say the person that you did something wrong to you is dead, is not alive anymore. So you cannot confront them. You cannot do clearing with them. How do you do that? You have to do forgiveness. There's nothing you can do about it. You can keep being angry, but that's the negative aspects to be a victim. So there is a proactivity, something we can do. If we can do the clearing with a person, it's great. If not, there's something we need to realize, right? So
it's always about inner work anyway. Yeah.
it's inner work, but also like in more practical way, what's going on in Standing Rock, you take actions, right? So okay, let's continue. Like Heather did, like you went to Standing Rock, you were there for like a couple of weeks, and
Yeah, and now in response, I'm creating 7-day candles. Like I'm creating art, which I haven't done in a few years, you know? Like I'm holding, like the vision's here, but even hearing you talking is like, yes, like actually like creating and coloring and like getting this out there to raise money for the ones who will be standing, you know, protecting this river, you know, it's like a beyond, yeah, my response, like how can I be of support, and as like someone aligned with Source and that was there supporting a lot of people to transmute their anger, it's also this like offering of prayer, you know,
Yes.
designing the image that will be on a candle for people to light in their homes.
beautiful.
You know?
I myself also designed a poster that actually
Yeah.
was in a response. I got really pissed one night and I decided what I'm going to do about it. So like you, I also use my creative abilities to make a statement and to share with the world. So we can do something about it. You can write poetry, you can do something. So there's always action we can do about it.
Yeah.
So the anger makes you move forward and create something that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's like propelling, for me, like I'm conscious of the black magic, like so aware of how that affected my ability when I went to that physical reality to stay aligned with Source. And now from here, like how to, I think, like dismantle the heaviness that it's had over people for thousands of years, you know?
Yep. Thank you. Beautiful. All right, let's continue. So when we talk about the awareness, we're in the month of Sagittarius right now. And for those who are maybe less familiar with the kind of the teachings of Kabbalah, the month of Sagittarius is the month of miracles. And miracles, the dynamics or the mechanism of miracles is that things that are happening are outside the realm of possibilities. Like it looks like completely impossible. Like I think again, Standing Rock, they actually declared that there is actually a resolution that is actually to the benefit of the native Indians. So something there is actually shifting. It's a complete miracle. So that's example. But when we talk about in our lives, like let's say there's some situation in our lives, it looks like complete impossible to get out of the situation. It can be a relationship, finance, whatever. There's something that we want to create a breakthrough. We don't know how to do it. So actually we can do something about it. And how do we do that? So when we are in the right awareness, which is represented when we talk about the world of Beersheba, when we are in that awareness of perfection, we can jump. So what we learn in Zohar, we can actually jump over physical matter with our mind. Because we know in Kabbalah that you are where your mind is. So if you close your eyes and you are in Hawaii, you're in Hawaii. Nobody can say you're not. You can say you're in Hawaii because your awareness.
Nice now.
That's the first step. And like we know from the Kabbalists, actually they can actually teleport themselves physically from one place to the other. But this process of jumping off the road, the Kabbalistic term, starts with our awareness. So creating miracles, it starts with our awareness. That's actually, it is possible. And I really love the quote of Albert Einstein. There's a beautiful quote. It says, "Never give up on your dreams." The person with let me read that. The person who have big dreams and imagination is more powerful than the person who have all the facts. Because when we have all the facts, it is what we know that we know. But there's the thing that we don't know that we don't know. So tapping into this part of our awareness, and if you know people with Sagittarius in your lives, they are kind of living in this world. They have like this very childish energy. Sagittarius are very like childlike because they are like Disney. I was talking about last week. It was Sagittarius, completely in this realm of anything is possible, even if it's expressed as a cartoon. But he always said that anything you can imagine, you can do it. Even Disney said so. So this month is also a reminder for us to make that jump, that exit, like we said. Yaakov, he went out. Okay? So we're going out from one realm to the other, but it starts with our awareness. Okay?
Somebody said that this month of miracles, it's not that we are creating the miracles. This month is a miracle. It's up to you. Either you jump in that miracle or not.
You
But
allow it actually in your life.
the
Would you allow
miracle
it?
is here.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not that creating, it's already created.
And this is, by the way, why.
Energetically.
Yes, and that's by the way why we have Hanukkah in this month.
Right.
Because Hanukkah is 8 days that are it's a power station, charging power station for tapping into the realm of miracles in our lives. It's not we're celebrating an event that happened 3,000 years ago. It's never about the event. The event happens because there's a cosmic window in the universe that happens in this time. So we're harnessing certain energy to create the miracle. So that's what it's about. Okay. So the miracles can only happen. Now, how? Like, in other words, the attribute of a miracle, like a miracle can only happen in a place where there is lack. When you have everything, there is no lack, there is no room for miracles, right? So if you're a multi-billionaire and you want to be rich, what's the likelihood you're going to be rich? Because if you're already rich, right? So that's the place when we say Yaakov, he reduced himself purposely to allow something to happen. In other words, when you reduce yourself, you say to the universe, okay, I have open vessel, I can receive more. You understand? Like we say, let me give you an example. King David, he wrote a book. It's called The Prayer for the Poor. Now, King David was very powerful king. But every day when he prayed to source, to God, he reduced himself.
He prayed like a poor.
He prayed like a poor. Why?
Inside.
Spiritually. He didn't say like, he had a lot of money. You have no lack of money
David.
or anything. But on a spiritual level, you always reduce yourself to have more. But we actually there's more to the story, because the story of Yaakov, his life story, which represents a constant battle between very high force of spirituality against very negative force, which is prevalent in this reality. We know that Yaakov had a brother, his name was Esav, which is a code
From
name.
last week, yeah.
We studied that he was born with a brother that was named Esav. Esav was the complete opposite of Yaakov. So it represents the Yaakov and the Esav inside of our own lives. We have those two sides, like we said last week. We have that two angels, one on the right, one on the left, constantly whispering in our ear. The question is, who will listen more, and who will decide like we don't want to listen. But in order for us to obtain that ability, we need to learn to recognize that. So the reducing, it's not just about receiving more from the universe, but sometimes in this reality, when you're dealing with certain forces, you need to know how to reduce yourself. It's a strategy, okay? We're going to learn a bit later, okay?
What's the example used about David again?
King David wrote a book called The Prayer for the Poor. When he prayed, he meditated to Source or God or Creator, the universe. He said, I'm poor, I have nothing. But he's a king. I mean, imagine it's like the Buddha. He left the palace, he became a beggar. Because he realized all the wealth in the world that he has, all these riches they mean nothing. Because if you think that if you are a multi-billionaire and you achieved everything in your life, you're dead already. You're completely dead. Because there is no room for the real energy to come to you. And if you look at a lot of people...
So if in the month of miracles, reducing yourself, right? is a way to open yourself up to receive more.
Yes, but there's more to. Yes, it is. It is because it's not just about receiving. It's about for what purpose you want to receive. It's not just about. It's about. We learn it. We learn in. I'm gonna show on the board for those of you who are first of all, or maybe you've seen it before, but to remind us about the two forces that we have. We have the left column, and we have the right column, and we have the middle column, right? So, in Kabbalistic terms, the left is the female aspect, and again, not about gender, okay? Right is male, and the middle one is the basically the know how to work between the two. Not the infinity sign, but it's actually how you work between those two energies. So, in order to, if I have a cup of water, I want to fill it with water, but it's already full with water, there's nothing I can put inside. So the reduction is something that we have to do with our awareness. If you think, or anybody thinks that we already attained such a high spiritual level, there's nothing for us to learn anymore, so the universe cannot force that on us. But when we say, and again, in the month of Sagittarius, and it's not just about that month, it's about always having this understanding, we attain something, we learn something, now let's put into practice, but let's ask for more. Because we know in Kabbalah that the cow wants to give to the calf more than the calf can receive. So how much we can receive, it's up to us. So we're constantly expanding our vessel. So it's all about the desire to receive, which is symbolized by the left column. But for what purpose? Is it just for ourselves, or is it to receive for the sake of sharing? This is what it's about. It's always reminding ourselves that we're here to be co-creators. That's why it's called the world of Malchut. It means kingdom. What is a king? Somebody who rules. But in order for you to have rulership, you need to have resources. And what's the highest resources we can have is wisdom. You can have billions of dollars. If you're stupid, you have really doesn't mean anything. But if you have wisdom and you have resources, you can do a lot with that. But the highest thing to have is the wisdom. This is what we're always reminding. Yaakov was very wise person. Okay? Anybody have any questions, comments, observations? No? Okay, let's continue. Verse number 3. רבי שמעון אמר, נפק מכללה דארעה דישראל, דכתיב, ויצא יעקב מבאר שבע, ואזל לרשו אחרה, דכתיב, וילך חרנה. נפק ממזרח, דכתיב, ויצא יעקב מבאר שבע, דש מיתה, דנטל מעומקה עילאה, נהירו דנהר, ואזל למערב, דכתיב, וילך חרנה, אתר דדינה ורוגזה תמן. Translation. Rabbi Shimon said that Jacob went out of the ambit of the land of Israel, as it's written, and Yaakov went from Beersheba, which is the Nukva in its entirety, called Beersheba, and called the land of Israel. And he went to another domain, as it is written, and he went toward Haran, outside the land of Israel, where the other side rules. Thus Yaakov came from the east, the secret of the central column that comprises the right and the left columns. As it is written, and Yaakov went out from Beersheba. This means that during the sabbatical year, namely the Nukva, Yaakov took the shining light from the supernal depth, Bina, and traveled west. That is, he took the light which sets in the west, the left column, without the right, and went toward Haran, a place of judgment and wrath. In Hebrew, Haron, it means anger, which is the domain of the other side. So this continues what we studied earlier. Now, when we talk about the word Nukva, Nukva comes from the word Nekeva, which means female in Hebrew. So this is one, like when we talk about the left side, he went from the world of perfection to the other side, to a place of emptiness, because the world of physicality cannot sustain itself. The world, our physical body is an empty shell. In order for us to sustain ourselves, there is a constant force that is feeding our body, like breathing, digestion, metabolism, all these different systems of the body that are required to maintain this physical vehicle. So this physical vehicle, without the energetic sustenance, it's nothing. So when you talk about going to this world, like we spoke about, there's a process of reduction. But more than that, there's another code that we learn. It's called the land of Israel. When you talk about Israel, we learn what does Israel mean?
Align with source.
Exactly. In Hebrew, it means Yashar El, which means aligned with source. So he went from a complete place of alignment into the darkest place. Why would he do that? And like we learned, there's a reason for that.
It's like doing bungee.
Bungee,
Bungee, you just, even though you're going to this, I don't know, it's so scary, but
Into the abyss. Yeah.
Right, but you did it before you jumped. You had this.
Bungee cord. Excellent example. That's beautiful. Yeah.
But for him, being the spiritual, this powerful, this was his protection, and from that place he could go there. But something like that. But this is what I feel.
And even more so, like, let's ask you a question. Why would a very wise person do such a step? Why would you think? Because we're going to start it further. Why would a very high elevated person, he jumps, goes to the darkness? Why would you do that? What's the purpose?
To bring the light.
To bring the light. More practically,
To transmute the dark.
to transmute, to rule it, to subdue it. It's like you're going, like, in all these stories, that when you go and you fight the dragon or the big serpent, you are there to subdue that force.
But first you practice.
But first you
know
practice.
How to kind of, have a war with the other side.
Yeah, we know
But
that.
not everybody can do that, right?
Well,
not necessarily it's necessary to do that for everybody.
Look, in our lives, we have to do it one way or another. You cannot stay on top of the mountain without dealing with the negativity, because this is what allows the transmutation. Like some people, I know in Mount Shasta I met some people who came from a very lavish life. They came to Mount Shasta because they were called for certain reasons. In many other places of the earth, people go to some places, like the Buddha, he left the palace, he went to become a beggar. He went from Beersheba to Haran. Why? Because it gives you
He wanted to find solution.
But
he
solution,
saw
solution to what?
injustice. He saw
the
death,
suffering.
suffering.
He saw the suffering.
So he said to God, "I'm going to go and find solution because I cannot
I'm
live
going
like
to
that."
eradicate the pain and
Right,
suffering. Exactly.
right.
So when Yaakov, when you do that, when you know, like he achieved, like we know from the Midrash, which is the other parts of studying of the Torah, Yaakov was studying constantly for 14 years. He was in a deep study of wisdom. He was called Ish Ohalim, a man of tents. Ohel, it means somebody who's like immersed in wisdom. But at some point, you have to get out of the tent. You have to go into the real life. You have to actually practice what you do.
Yeah.
You cannot stay in the cave constantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
We met here so many people who, like I was in a lecture was organized in a chai shop of somebody from Tibet. He was in the cave for 9 years. I saw him.
And then he came out
A
with
video,
powerful,
excuse me, wasn't physically.
powerful. He had the powerful abilities to heal people after
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
He just touched people and boom, a serious illness just cured in a few minutes.
But even the story of Jesus, he went to the colonies of the lepers. He wasn't sitting in some beautiful temple and just teaching, giving like darshan to people, right?
Yeah.
He went to the prostitutes. He went to the colonies with all the sick people. He went to the darkness of the dark. But if you know that you have the bungee cord, like you said, it's a beautiful analogy. With the bungee cord, it's your connection to the source.
You have to have it.
So wherever you go, you're not afraid, but you know that you have some work to do. You have to clean.
For
some
me,
stuff.
Zohar is the protection, the bungee cords that
It
I
is.
know. Whenever I go, I used to just take the book of Zohar with me when I knew I'm going to the dark places, negative places, people, family. I literally took the books with me, holding, and people like laughing. Oh, this fanatic woman holding this Bible. I was like, it doesn't matter. For me, it was protection. So I was protected consciously.
Well, it's more important that it's good to have the book with you, but even if you don't have the book, when Yaakov lived it, there was no Zohar.
Right.
But the wisdom was there, was transmitted orally. So the more important thing is to maintain the connection in your mind. You know who's the boss and how you maintain the connection. So this is what kind of we're getting into in this study
The way
today.
Moses went to Paro.
Exactly.
You know, the God said, "You go," and you know that I'm
behind you.
you.
I
You're
have your
not
back.
alone.
Yeah.
That's it.
He
It's
didn't
not
say
with-
go to Pharaoh. He said come to Paro. It means God is with Paro too. He said come to Paro. He didn't say go there. See, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
So let's continue.
Yeah, you're getting lots of hearts. Somebody loving you.
Such alignment.
Right? Oh, yes.
So one of the things we're learning from the Zohar is that in order for us to take the jump, the bungee jump, so to speak, or the exit, we need to be able to recognize the elements of the awareness which we do not desire. So when we have anger, so every day the really important thing is to see where our awareness is, because we cannot be like in complete ecstasy all day long. We are, somewhere on the scale between that and that. Ideally, not too much of extreme, but kind of getting the balance. But when we are in the not desirable place, we can recognize that, and we can make the jump right there. You say, okay, where I'm right now in this place, I'm angry, I'm whatever, I'm in negativity. Let me experience that, whatever it is, process you need to do. And out of that, you take yourself outside of this negativity, whether you take a walk, you meditate, you jump on the trampoline, like I like to do if I'm pissed, I'm going to jump on the trampoline, it makes me calm down, it works for me. Take a walk with my dogs, whatever works for you, So you do something, but you have to recognize, because we can dwell in negativity for a long time, we don't even know aware that we're there. When we start to identify with those negativities.
It can be a habit sometimes.
It can be a habit. So part of what we're learning here is to recognize, even more so, in certain times, you have to be in a situation when you're reducing yourself, but that's a different conversation. But we're talking about when you recognize the negativity, which is the not desirable place for you to be, and how you jump out of it starts with the awareness. Okay? So the interesting thing about the word miracle in Hebrew is nes. I want to write this down. In Hebrew, it's nes. It's spelled like that in Hebrew. Nes. Nes. Now the word nes in Hebrew, it's a very interesting word because it comes from the word lanus. Lanus, it's like that. Lanus means to run away from. So, run away from what? Is running away in our awareness.
Put a hit, please.
It's more on. Come on.
Yeah, it's kind of cold here, right? No? Yeah.
It's 77. So let's put the fan stronger. Okay. It's just, I think, is it not the strongest sound?
It's strong for the.
It's strong, so I need to reduce.
Yeah. So.
Let's put number 2. So the idea of nes, a miracle, comes from the word lanus, which means we are running away from one awareness to the other. Okay? So that's a very, very interesting word in Hebrew, because everything, all our codes, which have also meanings. So when we're going away from undesired reality, we're going in a way above nature. Because what we perceive as the natural state of being, as this is the reality, we have to run away from that. And it starts with our awareness.
So that creates a miracle, actually. Nes and nas, it's the same.
Yeah, lanus. Lanus
On
means
Hebrew,
to run
it's
away.
more makes sense.
Nes means a miracle, but the word lanus means to run away. So now for us
But
to
in English, run away sounds a little.
let's not get. Let's say exit is to go out, but in a more urgent, in a very.
Exit, I would say. Yeah.
Well, it says lanus. It's a different word. Latzet v'lanus is two different things. Latzet is to go out, but you can go out very kind of. In a very chill way, but sometimes you have to do it in a very urgent way. Lanus, there's
like an evacuation.
Right,
thank you. That's a better word. Evacuation. Thank you. You evacuate yourself from undesired state of awareness to another state of awareness. But we know in Kabbalah that a person cannot relieve themselves from the prison. You need something to pull you out of there. And what do? You connect to the hotline, to the lifeline, and that's why we do the abracadabra. There we have prayers. Like sometimes we can feel like very negative energy. Like yesterday, I felt like there's like moments I can feel like negativity. I just sit. So I have like some kind of a procedure I do. Sometimes you have to do anabekoach. You do some meditations. You need to clear. Sometimes you have to do sage something. But the first thing is the awareness. You have to be aware that this is happening, and you don't have to accept that. Because some people, they accept, this is life and there's nothing to do about it. No, there's always something to do about it. That's why we're here as magicians to transmute. Bitter to sweet. Darkness to light. Sweet chocolate. Let's have some chocolate. Yeah. Who brought this?
I did.
Thank you. Bitter sweet. Anybody have any questions, comments, or observations? I would love to hear from you what we're talking about here. Do you feel like relevance to what's going on this week? Yeah, let's let somebody else to share. I want to hear others too.
I can
Anybody
see on your
else?
face
My
without
face,
you talking.
yeah.
No, but I want to also allow other people to. But thank you. I want to also allow other people. Anybody want to share how this is relevant to what's happening in your life this week?
Yeah, I think so, because like a lot of times we have to face things that aren't pleasant, but you can't just stay all blissful like you say. You have to face it, and so I like how you say took the light of Bina, like that's like the bungee cord, the lifeline, and even though you don't know what you're gonna face, when you go into the darkness, you're prepared with that wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really know how to relate it, but it definitely relates to all of the work at Standing Rock.
But
people standing up.
let's put it more practical in your own life. You want to give examples, something more specific in your life. Standing Rock, it's there, but I want to hear.
Okay, I can give an example.
Yes.
Like when Sterling gets really upset because he gets upset when I get mad at him for doing something, and he'll get really angry, and I can feel his anger, and he's like, oh, you hate me and all this, and I'm just like, I don't really know how I'm gonna like tell him like, no, I don't hate you, and how to like convince him, but I have to go into that place where he's angry and kind of erratic, and
You have to face this
I
when
have
you
to
don't like
face
this
it.
energy.
I don't like it. Yeah, I want to just be like, okay, fine, like don't talk to me then. But I don't like to just leave it lingering. So I go and we talk, and I don't know what he's gonna say in response. But a lot of times
I can imagine.
He's a young Kabbalist, so he knows.
Yeah.
He learned a few things here.
Yeah, so that works today. I just like talked to him and tried to like relate to him and see if he could relate to me, and he did. Like right away, he was like, okay, I get it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share? You wanna?
I'm sure that all of this probably relates really deeply to what I'm going through right now. I'm not really sure how to put that into words, though.
Okay. I'll give you one advice. One of the things we're learning about Yaakov, or the wisdom for us, he's proactive. You not wait for that to come to you. You go there yourself. You take the initiative. Because the whole idea of going out of that ideal space of being in the mountain or in the cave, go down there, you recognize that if you think you sit on the lower leaves and you just think everything is like there's no work to do, it will come to you. It will awaken you.
And kick your ass.
So it will. So the
From my
idea is
experience.
you take the proactive. So whatever you think, you are looking in those places in your life where you can go into the darkness and you can make the transmutation. So being proactive is really important. Does it make spark any?
Yeah, I mean, I can elaborate a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like I'm risking a deep ramble here, and I don't want to take.
We
up
can
time.
handle with that. Don't worry.
Okay.
We can deal with it.
Okay, so there's a great deal of injustice and just maybe that's enough of a word. And other associated energies in our world, in our cultural model, and it's very difficult at times to want to participate fully in the normal way of participating in our cultural model, out of the awareness that somehow it could contribute to energies that I don't want to contribute to unnecessarily, but that on the flip side there are aspects of that cultural model that I still need in order to like be in the world and all that. So how can I contribute my energy in a beneficial way that isn't
Harming you.
yeah, or submitting to what seems like tyranny or something like that, you know? I mean, I can get more specific about what I've been through today if
Please.
that'll help.
Yeah, I wanna
But,
like real life examples because we wanna be there.
So I have been traveling. I'm from North Carolina. I drove across the country in August, and I've been traveling for a few months now. And I, largely because of some severely unjust things that I've experienced in the past with the judicial system of this world, not of California, but of North Carolina. I have chosen to not comply with the status quo of things, specifically involving the registration of my car. So I've been traveling, exercising what I've researched enough to show is actually a common law right, according to this federal Supreme Court that most people aren't even aware of, to travel in your car and transport your stuff around and do your thing without it being subject to the privileged nature of like having a license and getting your car registered and all that. So I do have a license because it helps me have insurance, but as far as having a registered car, I'm not really acting as a driver with my license. Anyway, so today, and I haven't had any problems with this. So I have this.
Plate.
I have this common law plate on the back of my car.
Common what?
Common law
What does it
plate.
mean?
Common law is the law by which we have a constitutional right to travel. The typical umbrella of statutory code ordinance stuff that 95% of people, like probably everybody else in this room but me, complies with is actually not constitutional common law. It's this whole like maritime commercial code stuff, and we don't actually have to do that, but everybody does, and everybody's used to everybody doing it. And so there's this whole like, are we feeding the beast by doing that? I'm not saying that we shouldn't contribute in some way to the roads or whatever. When we buy gas, it does contribute because there's tax on the gas. But anyway, today the Mount Shasta police towed my car, and I've been living in my car for months. So that's my life they just took away from me. And it's sitting in an impound in Weed on police orders that I basically have to make them happy to get them to release it. And the cop, Frank, whatever, I don't know if anybody knows that guy, who was responsible for this decision, told me that I'm not going to get my car back until I register it.
Okay.
And like, I feel a duty especially because of some things that I've been through in the past and what I know a lot of people go through, and I feel like a lot of the injustice of our system is fueled by this beast that is fed by our fearful compliance with a system because we're afraid we're going to get arrested if we don't do something, even if we're conducting ourselves in a way that is in no way causing harm or damage or infringing upon the rights of anyone else around us. Like, I'm not doing any of those things at all by traveling around in my car. So anyway, so I don't, it's like, is stepping out into the other world, the other world of judgment and all that stuff that you're talking about that David did or whatever. And I'm hearing that and I'm thinking, okay, well, I do have the option of just doing what feels like putting my tail between my legs and just saying, okay, you know what, screw it. I guess I'll just register my car and do all that under duress or whatever. I don't know. Or is it, diving in there and trying to really like fight the beast? And you used the word war earlier, and I wanted to be like, that's a strong word because I'm not trying to come at it like that. I feel like that just begets more of itself, and I'm not,
Well, I think it's beautiful you're sharing. By the end of the class, I think you will have some hints how to deal with them.
Yeah.
And if not, we can talk after the class because there's always...
We can ask the Zohar later.
Absolutely. There is always a way to deal with it. There is a reason why you are facing this situation, and the fact that you're here because you're going to get some tools how to deal with them.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's always strategy. There is a war. Whether you like it or not, there is always a war. But it's not a war of weapon. It's a war of the mind.
Consciousness.
It's a consciousness war.
Spiritual.
It's a spiritual war. And part of
it's
you...
more in here than...
Yeah, it's inside of you, but when you realize it's inside of you, then there is no outside circumstance.
No.
You resolve it with the tools that you're given here, and you can resolve it 100%. Just get some tips on the strategy, how to approach it. But we're talking about the reducing yourself.
And it's also, I just want to finish with that, that it's not about, we spoke about this last week, it's not about being right, it's about being wise. We can talk about this later, but just be on that feeling. Not about being right, being wise, because the other side, we got to trick the other side, so we cannot be right with the other side. You are
they
right.
have the fact. Don't be with the fact.
You're right.
Yeah.
But we have to be, as a spiritual beings, wise and trick the system, but with here.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they want that little piece of whatever, paper or registration,
But let's talk about it later on. We don't
Yeah.
want to get, but
yeah,
there
but
is
later.
there is
Let's
there is
stay
wisdom
with that.
here, and I'm glad you're here because you will get new maybe insights how to do with that.
Yeah, you'll see.
With
yourself.
strategy and wisdom, not because they're going by the book, they're right, and you have your book, you're right, but it's not. You cannot be both right. One of you have to be wise. That's you. They're gonna be right, but you have to be wise. Okay.
Just one more thought, just to put on top of that.
Yeah, yeah.
But just, I've wondered for a long time, you know, what is the difference? Is there a difference? Where is the line drawn, or whatever, between the concept of spiritual surrender, you know, which is essential to such a great, in such a large way, and like surrendering to tyranny or something, you know, like in the way that things are imposed upon it. You know what I mean? Like,
Excellent question.
if everything is an aspect of spirit, and like, what are we, you know? God, it's like I don't want to. I don't, you know.
No, I get exactly what you're saying. First of all, you surrender to source, not to the serpent. Okay? So you first of all have to recognize who you're dealing with. Even the serpent is from the source. But it doesn't mean you have to comply with a situation if it's not for your like. If you don't like it, if you don't accept it, doesn't mean you don't have to say, you know, they took my car, I will surrender. No, you don't have to surrender to that. But you have to see it from a bigger picture with higher wisdom. So it's not like we say, no, I'm not going to accept anything happening in my life. I'm just going to fight everything. It's not about that either. But we look at things with the perspective. First of all, we eliminate the reaction mechanism, because a lot of everybody in this room, everybody's watching, everybody's playing, we face at some point in our lives things that happen to us, we don't like it. We don't like it. You know, someday we have a letter from the court, we have the ticket, whatever, we don't like it. But it means that we have an opportunity to transmute something. But the surrender that really you're talking about is surrendering to the source. So even if you have, like right now, there's some certain of judgment that's impending. So if you have to put something, some financial something, so maybe you have to surrender, you have to pay that. Maybe that's part of the resolution. But from the higher picture, it doesn't mean you're surrendering to the corrupt system, or you surrender to a system which is not just. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of work in both ways. Does it make sense?
Maybe.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, let's
I'll
continue.
tell you later after the class.
Okay, but I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've been in this situation many times in my life. Many times.
I
Yes,
had this
yes.
with the bank for a long time, and now I need to fix it.
I was going through court
had
for
the
2
same
years with a
situation.
situation, like horrendous situation.
You witness.
And I'll let you wait 1 second. And constantly I refused to accept the situation. So I surrendered. This is what happening from the universe, but I refused to accept the certain outcome that was going. I was going through 2 years of a legal situation that was completely nightmare for me. I never accepted the situation. I said no. I'm going to clear my record. I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to have a little dot on my record. I'm going to clean that. That was my awareness. So I accepted that I'm here right now. I said, you know, this judgment is going on right now. I accept it, but I don't accept it's going to be forever. I don't. So it's like you said, you know, Tony Robbins, I like to talk about him. He was very poor. So, you know, he's sitting starving in his apartment. He was hungry. Yeah, you accept that you're hungry right now. Okay, you accept, but doesn't mean you're going to accept it's going to be forever. Because we're here, always remember, we're here to enjoy, to be part of this creation, to enjoy this creation. Period. The reason we're created here is to enjoy the creation. But it doesn't mean we don't have obstacles and hurdles on the way. Because we're here to remember that the highest pleasure to enjoy is the spiritual pleasure. We can also enjoy physical pleasure, but the purpose of us being here is to enjoy creation, period. No question. We're not here to be martyrs on the cross. Like some teachers, they tell you that you have to be martyred to suffer. No, we're not here. We're here to enjoy the creation. But there's a right way to enjoy it. You want to say something?
Yeah, I had like a quick example, but if you have to move on, that's okay.
Please, quick, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting when I was thinking about like reducing yourself, because right now, like what I'm asking for is like more to receive more, to be open to receiving more love, right? To open these new pathways in my heart to receive love from the masculine. And in making this prayer, you know, a few weeks ago, it really brought me to this place of being with all the way back to being in utero and not receiving.
Wow.
You know, like this love that's like it's like our divine birthright. You know what I mean? Like this, and I chose like the conditions to, yeah, I think like bring great healing to like my family and to like humanity, right? Like balancing of this masculine energy by choosing the masculine. You know, the fathers and the person I created life with and became a mother with, right? So I literally, the last like 3 days, I feel like this reducing myself is like going into like the depths of like that suffering and those places where I felt like unworthy, you know,
Wow.
of like love from the masculine, and like in like this processing and this like desire, you know, like I'm raising a man, you know what I mean, and like my desire to celebrate these men and what they've taught me and how they've propelled me, you know, to be in the place that I am now. And anyway, like my processing, you know, like my responding is like, these are like men that I've been trying to like phone call or like send emails or whatever communication over the last 5 years. And so aware of like how much I never let myself be reduced to go down to like sitting with like, what has it felt like to not ever feel like this true genuine love that's our birthright, to have this balance of masculine and feminine. So anyway, like I've been writing them letters, like completely forgiving them and asking them to completely forgive me, with this trust that like it's completing like this belief that like I was unworthy of having like that wholeness from the masculine based on my experience at birth and my experience creating life, you know?
That's beautiful. Thank you.
And extending that invitation of like forgiveness between the masculine and feminine globally, like all over the universe, you know, and just honoring them and thanking them for how they propel me to find more love, you know?
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's continue. How are we doing with the time?
9:10.
9:10. Okay. So, okay, let's go to verses number 13 and 14. סתרי תורה. וזרח השמש ובא השמש, מה ייקח חמה שלמה מלכה, דשירותה דספרה, דחוכמתה דילי, מהכה איהו. אלא אמר רבי אלעזר, שלמה מלכה, היי ספרה, וקים לי על 7 הבלים, ועל מה קאים עליהו, ואינון עמודין וסמכין, קיומה דעלמה, דבגין כך עקרון הבלים. מה גופה, לה יתקיים בלא הבל, עוף הכי עלמה, לה יתקיים אלא על הבלים. דאמר שלמה מלכה, ואינון 7, דכתיב הבל הבלים, אמר קהלת, הבל הבלים הכל הבל השבע. The secrets of Torah. And the sun also rises and the sun goes down, from the book of Kohelet. He asks, why did King Solomon begin his book of wisdom? Kohelet is a book written by King Solomon, book of great wisdom. Why did he start that with this, talking about the rising and the setting of the sun? Rabbi Elazar said that King Solomon based his book upon the 7 vanities upon which the world is established. The word vanity in Hebrew is hevel, is breath. It's hevel, like the word of Cain and Abel. Abel means hevel, means breath. Okay, it's vanity or breath. It's have different meanings. So the world is based on those 7 vanities, 7 breaths. The pillars and foundations that sustain the world are called vanities, in Hebrew havalim. For just as the body cannot endure without vanity, without breath, so the world cannot endure without these 7 vanities mentioned by King Solomon. So there are 7 energetic codes that are called havalim, 7 different breaths. Okay? And these are 7, as it's written, vanity of vanities. Says Kohelet, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Everything is a breath. Evel. Altogether, there are 7 vanities or havalim, breaths in the verse, vanity is 1. Vanities is in the plural. And since the plural means at least 2, that makes 2 vanities. Together, there are 3 vanities. And again, he says vanity of vanities, which makes 6 in total. And if we add all this vanity, at the end, there are 7. Let's continue one more, and then we're going to go explain. Ve'iteima, ihachei deinun margelan tavan de alma kaima alaihu. Ha be'atar achara ktiv havalim bishin. Ve'inun stiru de alma, kegon ze, hevel v'chol ira hu. Ze hevel ureut ruach, אלא ודאי אף על גב דהני 7 הבלים. excuse me. דהינון קדישין קיומה דעלמה, אית לקבל הני זין הבלים, דכל דהינין דעלמה נפקין, ומיניהו מתפשטין. ויקרון הבלין אחרנין, להלקאה בני נשה, ולהתקנה לון דיהחון באורח מישר. ויקרון הבל דשריה בהו כל עירה, הבל דאיהו ראות רוח, ואינון קיומה, דבגינהון בני נשה אזלין באורח מישר, ודחילו מקודש הבריחו ועל דעס סגיעין, אינון הבלים מתפשטי מהני שווה. You may say that if this be so, those 7 breaths, the world is sustained on precious pearls. They compare those 7 breaths, 7 vanities, like 7 pearls. Yet elsewhere it is written of there are also 7 evil vanities that cause the destruction of the universe. As it says, this is vanity and evil disease. Like we know the word vanity can also have a negative connotation. What's the meaning of vanity in English? It's pride,
yeah.
right? Pride. Which, by the way, when we say somebody is proud, is full of it. So when somebody is full of it, there isn't room to put anything inside. It's completely full of it, right? There's no room.
Superficial, yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody is full of it, there is no room for something new to enter, right? So that's vanity, compared to an evil disease. And this is vanity and harmful spirit. He answers that assuredly this is so. Although these 7 vanities are holy and necessary for the existence of the world, there are corresponding vanities from which every judgment in the world radiates. These other vanities punish men and correct them, so they will, man or woman, not just from a particular gender, so they will walk the path of righteousness. They are called a vanity in which there is evil disease, and a vanity which is striving after wind. And they maintain the world because they ensure that men and women tread the path of righteousness in fear of the Holy. And the word fear means awe. Look like you're afraid. Look, you're in awe of source. Of awe of the Holy One, blessed be He, Creator, Source. Therefore, there are many evil vanities that spread from these 7 holy vanities, for they are also the sustenance of the universe. So this verse basically explains to us the construction of this reality. Like, if you know the story of Yaakov, he worked 7 years for his first wife, which was supposed to be Rachel, and then he actually realized that his father-in-law, he switched brides, he married actually Leah. You have to work another 7 years to obtain his wife Rachel. But again, we're not talking about having multiple wives or about marriage. We're talking about obtaining spiritual levels. So let's make a show here on the board. We have the 7 and the 7. So we know there are great way to see that is like we have like a reflection. There's 7 negative ones and there are 17 positive ones, right? Together is 14, right? 14. Right. Interesting enough, if you know the alkaline table, right? Alkaline acidic, right?
pH,
yeah.
Right.
pH is exactly like that. When it's
Right.
2 and too much on the negative, it's very acidic. Acidic. Mm-hmm. And the plus 1 is alkaline. So we know that the humans were somewhere a little bit over 7, kind of somewhere like 7.2. Like our body have different pH. Like our skin have 7.2. Digestive system is more acidic, etc. But overall, it's like around the 7, right? If you go even too much alkaline, like Kangen water is 9. We don't need 9 pH. It's too much. Mm-hmm. But somewhere between 7 and 8, it's okay. Drink water. So we know that what this verse is teaching us, that there are first of all, the word hevel, we're going to study later about how we have to do with creation, and how we have to do with our soul, etc. But when we talk about Yaakov going from that high level, he went to the lower level. He wanted to have the full spectrum to understand in what forces he's dealing with. It's like, if you want to be a really good, you want to go to be a great Kung Fu master, you're not going to Hawaii, you're going to a temple, and they're going to beat the shit out of you there until you become a good fighter. Like, you have to deal with some forces there.
Yeah.
Because we know that when you want to create sparks of light, you have to create friction between two rocks, and then you have sparks of light. So he willingly, he went to go to a certain training, but first of all, he had the tools. He had the bungee cord. And then he went down to obtain, to transmute, because first of all, he established the connection, he established the tools. Right? So when you go to that level, you're going in order to master something, to overcome something, to progress on something. Then you clear whatever you need to clear, then you can create the balance. But sometimes you have to go through the extremes. Right? Sometimes you have to go to extreme to receive the balance. So this is what this verse is teaching us about.
You know what you don't want when you go to extreme.
Yeah, you don't want to go to the extreme. Sometimes it's not good to go to the extremes.
No, only when you go to extreme, then you know that
sometimes you need,
maybe it's not right for you.
Exactly.
It's too much. So then we can balance.
Yeah, but nevertheless, to be in the comfort zone, to stay there all the time, it's not good. So those challenges that we hopefully deliberately, like you left North Carolina, you went out of your comfort zone. I mean, how many people, whatever reason it is, you had a trigger that whatever your story, whatever you had to go through to go out. But how many people leave North Carolina, travel, and they go through these cracks? Not many experiences. You deliberately realize, I have a purpose. So for you, that was the trigger for what happened with your registration. Maybe that was somebody. But how many people had this situation? Maybe they stayed in North Carolina, right? So nobody here, like I said before, nobody here was born in Mount Shasta.
No.
Right? We all came here from very long distance, right? Most people I meet on the street here, they're not from here. People travel from across the planet to come to this place.
Or something bring them here without even choosing in the beginning.
And it's never to be comfortable.
No.
It's never to be comfortable. I don't think anybody here will say, I came comfortable Mount Shasta because I just want to be comfortable. I mean, yes, you want to have certain physical sustenance, you want to have provided, you want to have food, you want to have shelter, etc. But you came here to do some work. But again, when you go do the spiritual work, you need to have the spiritual tools to be efficient. And whatever you're dealing with, you can deal with that swiftly. Yeah. Now, what we also learn here is that we learn here about the how to deal with the energy. When you know how energy flows, you know how to deal with those negativities. Mm-hmm. Because negativity is where there's lack of flow of energy. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go deeper into that shortly. Okay, let's go. I'm going to be short on the questions until we get to in the end, so we have more time to go over all the material we have for today. So this verse 17 is about how we create illumination or enlightenment in our lives, like more practical speaking. VaYetze יעקב בכתרה דסתימו מגו סתרה סתימה נפקה זוהר אספקלריה דנהרה כלילה מטרן גוונין דמתחברן כחדה כיוון דאילן התכלילו דאבדה התחזון בי כל גוונין ארגמן איהו כל חייזו דנהורין בי כלילן רצור ושוב אינון נהורין לה מתעכבן למחמי חיבורה חדה התחברן בהוא זוהר. Translation: And Jacob went out, VaYetze, like the name of this portion, he went out of the closed labyrinth, and from the closed mystery emerges the splendor of the shining mirror, which is composed of two colors and joined together, because they are included within one another. All the colors are visible in it. All the appearing lights are included in the color purple. Remember the movie Color Purple? So all the lights are included in the color purple. That is, as the color purple includes all the colors, so that the splendor of the shining mirror comprises all the lights. These lights run and return, for they run from the illumination of the light of the right to the illumination to the left, included in it. But then they immediately return to their place in the illumination of the right. and they do not stop to see. That is, to draw out chokhmah, which means wisdom, but immediately return to their place. The illumination of the right and the left are joined within that splendor, bringing forth to the right in the illumination of the chasadim, which means mercy. And the illumination of the left is not seen at all, but is negated and included within the right. So this explains that this entire thing we see here, we have the left and we have the right. We have the seven, we talk about the seven havalim, the seven vanities, or seven breaths of creation, but there are the seven counterparts. So these are giving to us the opportunity to transmute them and to include all of them in one unity. And the interesting thing about the word argaman in Hebrew, it means purple. Argaman, let me write down. Argaman is a code name. Argaman, A is Ariel, the angel Ariel. Resh is Raphael. Gimel is Gabriel. Mem is Michael. Nun is Nuriel. Together is Argaman. So, when we talk about those 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 different names that comprise the word Argaman, purple in Hebrew, they refer to 5 angels, to five forces. So when we talk about that the color purple includes all the colors, when we talk about Kabbalistic codes, it can include the white, the red, the black, and the green. So what it teaches us that this color, the purple color, includes, again, I'm not talking about color like in painting, talk about colors in terms of like frequencies of energy or forces. It includes even the black, which is the negative forces. So the negative is within the purple. So when we understand that the light itself, it includes everything. But in order for us to attain that unity, we have to break it down to its different colors too, so we can transmute them. So it always goes back, when it talks about going back, it always, when it breaks down to different aspects, is for us to retrieve that, to transmute, to bring back into the unity. Like when you have the prism of color, right? Like Isaac Newton, he discovered that if you take the prism, you take a light beam and you break it down, you receive 7 colors, right? So the color white includes all the colors, but even the white is included with inside the purple. So there is like system within the system that breaks down. Okay, so there's talks about disintegration, but going back into unity. This is really what's happening in this reality. Things happen like they're scattered. We're going through something. We have to opportunity to transmute something, so we can bring it back into perfection. Because if everything is in perfection, there's no work for us to do. So all here to kind of connect the different pieces to bring it back into the perfection. That's what the word shalom in Hebrew, it means wholeness, completion. Shalom.
Connect the pieces to bring it back into wholeness.
Exactly.
VaYetze Shalom, he says that Argaman is the initials of all the major angels of the tree of life.
Well, they're right there for you.
Yeah. You just mentioned
Yeah,
him.
yes, exactly.
He's trying.
Thank you, Aviad. He's a fellow Kabbalist from Australia.
Oh, wow.
What time is in Australia? I'm curious.
What
I
time?
think it's like 19 hours different or something like that.
It's a morning for sure.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
accustomed to
Shalom.
seeing Michael, Gabriel,
Boker
Raphael, and
Boker
Uriel.
Tov. Shalom.
Nuriel.
Instead of Uriel, I'm saying Nuriel,
Uh-huh.
Ariel, so that's new to me.
Yeah, Nuriel comes from the word nur, which means light. But Uriel is also from the word or, which is another word for light. So,
Are
But
they
these are
two
all-
names for the same.
no, different angels. There's like so many different angels, different names, different functions. But when we talk about those 5 main angels, they represent 5 positive forces. But for every positive angel, there's a negative counterpart.
Pleasure, guys. VaYetze.
Pleasure.
He's a pleasure, guys.
Thank you. So there's always the forces and the counterforce. Like we have Yaakov, and you have his twin brother, which is completely evil, completely the opposite of him. But the entire purpose of Yaakov to be born with his brother, so he can subdue. It represents how we subdue the negative force in our lives, which is the desire to receive for the self alone.
In Australia now it's 16:24 p.m.
So it's 4
4, 20.
22.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Toda.
Thank you. All right, let's continue.
5 hours.
Verse number 21 and 22.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
So it's Australia, it's already tomorrow.
In the afternoon.
Okay.
See, we jumped there. We jumped the
We
time.
jump, you see, we jump
See,
time.
Johnny, we were just talking
Time
about
hopping
this.
all
Boom.
over.
We're tomorrow already. All right, 21. אדם על ולה הסתמר והתפתה, והתפתה אבטרה וחטא בההיא אשת זנונים, נחש כדמעה, נוח על ולה הסתמר, והתפתה אבטרה וחטא דכתיב וישת מן היין וישכר ויתגל בתוך אוהלו. אברהם על ונפג דכתיב וירד אברהם מצרימה, וכתיב ויעל אברהם ממצרים. יצחק על ונפק דכתיב וילך יצחק אל אבימלך מלך פלישתים גררה, וכתיב ויעל משם באר שווה. Translation: Adam was tried first. He went through the first trial. He was tempted by the serpent. Because he was not careful, he was seduced. And he sinned. Like the word sin is not the religious connotation. In Hebrew, sin is chet. Chet means to miss the goal, to go away from the path. Okay? So he transgressed or sinned with a wife of harlotry. It's not a physical wife. It's not an actual wife. It's a consciousness. It's energy. The primordial serpent. Noach was tried but did not take heed. He was seduced by a wife of harlotry and sinned. As it was written, and he drank the wine and was drunk, and he was uncovered within his tent. Abraham went in and departed, as it is written, and Abraham went down to Egypt, and Abraham went up from Egypt. Isaac went and departed, as it is written, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, and he went up from there to Beersheba. Now, what this verse talks about, that there is actually there are forces in this reality, and there is constantly for us gives us the opportunity how we can exercise our ability to be masters of this reality. So when you talk about temptation, it's like you play a video game. So in order for you to go to the next level, you have to go through certain levels or certain challenges, so you can overcome them. You can go to the next level. So the way we are dealing in this reality as human beings, it's like a play field. Okay, it's a play field. Nevertheless, it's a serious play field. But when we know the tools, we can recognize the challenges before they come to us. And when we face the challenges, we know not to fall into the trap. So when we talk about Adam and Noach, they failed in a certain way. But then it talks about Abraham and Yitzchak, and even Yaakov and Jacob. They went down, like Yaakov, he went to Haran. They went down to the very negative place, but they came out of it. In other words, we can be in the most negative situation right now, but not be affected by what's going on around us. Let's say you live in a certain neighborhood, not Mount Shasta, okay? You live in a certain neighborhood, and it's around you, there's like people shooting crack, prostitutes, drug dealers, shootings, a lot of things are happening around you, like very negative things. You can choose to participate in this reality, or you can see what's going on, and you can decide, no, I'm not going to be part of that. I'm going to get out of this place. I'm going to create some amazing life for myself. It all depends on your awareness. Okay? So the universe, or even our soul, makes some kind of an agreement to be born in a certain circumstance. Or even if we're not born, right now we could be in a certain place. It's not favorable. But we need to learn how to recognize those influences, those temptations that are pulling us. But they're giving us the opportunity to overcome.
Israel me'al mazal. That means Israelites have the power to overcome the karma even
The karma,
that we chose
hold on.
in the. Even we chose certain life.
Yes.
We came here and we
Exactly.
said, "What's the hell? Enough is enough." I can say I can jump and just overcome that package I took here before I came here as a soul. Something like
Even
that.
DNA. We
Well,
carry
yeah,
some
sure.
DNA. We can say, why I got this DNA from my parents. If you study there's a very famous scientist, his name is Bruce Lipton. I encourage you to watch his videos on YouTube. He's a world-known biologist and scientist. He proven scientifically you can reprogram your DNA.
Yeah.
It's proven scientifically your DNA can be reprogrammed. So
So we can't
Our
blame our
consciousness
parents
can turn
anymore.
any gene off. Like we
and other
incarnate-
genes on, exactly.
Right. It's like whatever we don't heal, the next generation inherits. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like
But-
and it's limitless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Want to say something?
I said this. I think I said this last night. But just something I've been coming across lately, which is, you know, like she said, it gets passed along, and we inherit in our genetic memory generational trauma that,
Yes.
like in the case of this world, goes back a long time, and
Yeah.
then we can sort of look at America as like a melting pot, a genetic melting pot of Earth, and so we're here and now here, and we're like processing a lot of trauma and stuff
Yeah.
that manifested in our lives in perhaps
Yes.
subtle ways or whatever, but that what we're processing is like serving a huge purpose of healing for the world. And actually I came across something suggesting that Earth is like that for the galaxy too, but
That's a great insight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the Earth, on a Kabbalistic term, this is Earth. Where the lower Sephirah. This is planet Earth. This is the sun. Okay. So we talk about Yaakov is the sun. This is actually talks about different planets. Where on planet Earth is the lower density. But I mean, we don't see everything that's going on across the galaxy. We talk about our own solar system. We think that we are the planet with the only life, but guess what? We're not.
Oh, yeah.
There's life forms that we don't always necessarily see. This galaxy is full of life. We just don't see everything that's going on. So what you say is absolutely true. It's a funnel. There's a funnel of energy coming down here for us to transmute. That's why this is called Malchut, the physicality. So this is where all the action is happening place, the physical action. Now, what we're talking about here, the verse 21, we talk about the temptation. So in Kabbalah, there is a term called, I'm going to say in Hebrew, I'm going to translate it, Tzad HaBoreh Shebabri'ah. It means the aspect of the creator in creation. That's one aspect. The second one is Tzad HaBri'ah Shebabri'ah, which means the aspect of creation in creation. Which means when the aspect of the creator in creation itself, when that is the one who rules what's going on, we receive goodness in our reality. In other words, the more attributes of creator we have in our lives, and we, in Kabbalistic terms, creator, it means the desire to receive in order to share. So we are more force of influencing this reality. We're not passive observers. We're not selfish in this reality. We actually we are co-creators with a huge desire. The word desire is a key word in Kabbalah, because you know the famous philosopher French Descartes says, "I think, therefore I am." Kabbalah says, "No, I want, therefore I am."
Like
Because
desire.
my dog thinks too. I see it. Like she looks in at the food, she thinks that she wants to have food. Animals think too. So the thought or the ability to think does not distinguish us from animals.
So
It does not.
desire is-
It's the desire that distinguishes us.
Why do we have to be distinguished from
By the level of the desire. Are you having only the desire to receive for the self alone, or to receive in order to share? In other words, when we embody that ability in our lives, that we talk about the temptations, when something comes to you, and you're able to recognize from what aspect is coming through. And if you, the more we study this wisdom, the more you learn to recognize from where it's coming to you. You know, okay, this is what's coming to me right now. It's not coming from the light, it's coming from the dark. I say, no, that's left column, that's restriction. You don't say, oh, I'm a cosmic being, I say yes to everything. No. When you think, like, I saw the movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man, right?
Mhm.
It's a great movie, but try to live like that. You just say yes to everything. I don't think it's a good idea. You need to know to put the boundaries. The boundaries are important. Yes is the right column, but when you talk about the other cheek, it's like, no, you turn the other cheek, says no. It's not about slap me here. It means no. I've turned to you the left side. I put boundaries. I say sometimes yes, sometimes no. But that's how you know how to distinguish between these two forces. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Do you think there's any truth to the whole Buddhist doctrine of that desire is what is? I mean, because desire certainly can be what
Not passion. I'm not
what
talking about
gets in
passion.
the way of our happiness. You know, not acknowledging and being grateful for what we already have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and feeling like there's lack and that. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
think like desire's enlightenment.
Well, the word desire is tricky in English because when we translate the word in Hebrew is ratzon. Ratzon
different.
is it's pure will or desire. It's not like desire like lust or passion. it means desire is will, or it's hard to translate, but it means desire to receive. This is really kind of, let's use the term desire to receive. But in Buddhist terms, the Buddhism is very different from Kabbalah, because in Buddhism, many people who follow the path of Buddhism, it says, don't ask for anything, don't desire anything, just achieve it, accept it as it is.
That's old doctrine.
And,
Okay.
That's not
and I
like.
think the correct term in that Buddhist is ignorant wanting, not necessarily desire. It's like an ignorant wanting.
Well, it's like we had. I think
That's
they're
what I
going
heard
in.
anyway. Is there's
Yeah.
like an ignorance to it.
Sometimes I feel like there's supposed to be an eternally empty spot, and it's the idea that we could somehow successfully fill it for good, like
Yeah.
and like actually fill it, and then it's like done.
Oh, it's a
The
great
idea
point.
That the kind of desires that are driven
It's
from
gotta
that
get better.
misbelief or that like misled belief, maybe, I don't know. I'm just my take on this, but
No, but you say it's very true, because we are this physical reality is a play field. It's a war field, but it's not a place of killing. It's a war because there are forces. But that aspect you say, when we are kind of going to the next level, the quantum leap that we can achieve is when we are able to subdue the dark forces. We don't get rid of the dark forces, but we subdue them. They're under control. That's what we're talking about. So the more of us embodied in our own lives, we're able to subdue our own negativities, then we create a mass. Then we create a shift in this reality, a quantum leap. In order for us to achieve a quantum leap, we need to generate energy. Whether it's a restriction, sexual restriction, overcoming negative habits that we might have, each and every one of us to our own level. That the more of us are doing that, then we can create a quantum leap on a big scale. But it doesn't mean we're getting rid of the dark side. It's part of the design of the physical system. In other realms, it does not exist, but in physical reality, it's part of the game. But we're here again, like we talk about, to create the kingdom so we can rule it.
Well, it's like evolving on how that darkness, you know what I mean, like affects us or sways us.
Or allow to become a power that is less affecting us. So maybe it's exactly what you said. Like maybe in the past we had some habits that were affecting us all the time, but then we invested some work and effort and discipline, and we start to take some actions, and those influences do not influence us anymore. We overcome them, but they are still there, but they're not affecting you anymore.
Even our past, the childhood memories that traumatic ones, probably once it was affecting our life, but when we overcome it, we couldn't forget it. We cannot really sometimes heal it. But I'm the master, so I'm not gonna allow to this memory or past experience to affect my life today.
Exactly.
But it took a lot of learning and
practice
skills.
and practice. Yeah.
Practice. That's something I would talk about. Is I was immediately start crying. Today I'm just can talk about this powerfully, but it took years. It's okay, It's like I'm kind of proud of myself to achieving that, because it's hard. It's
Okay, let's
So-
continue. Thank you.
Ah.
Verse number 23. Sitra de citrin migo de tokfa de tihara de Yitzchak. Migo דורדיה דחמרה נפק חד נעיצו כתירה כלל חד דחר ונוקבה סומקה כוורדה מתפרשן לכמה סטרין ושבילין דחורה יקרה סמך מם נוקבי כלילה בגבי תדיר כמה דאי הוא בסתר קדושה אחי נמי בסתרה אחרה דחר ונוקבה כלילה דה בדה נוקבה דסמך מם נחש יקרה אשת זנונים קץ כל בשר קץ הימים. Translation. A deep mystery is found in the strength of Yitzchak, light of holiness, and from the dregs of wine which are klipot. Klipot means shells, like negativities. One shape emerged from both, made of good and evil, male and female as one. It is red as a rose and extends to many sides and paths, having many aspects. The male is called Samech Mem. I want to say it's a full name. It's a name of a negative entity. And the female is always included within him, is on the side of holiness. Zeir Anpin and Nukva. Zeir Anpin, when I talk about Zeir Anpin, is the upper worlds, and Nukva is the physicality. This is the male, this is the female. Okay? So the Zeir Anpin and Nukva are always included one within the other. So it is on the other side, a male and female are included within one another. The female of Samech Mem is called a serpent, a wife of harlotry, the end of all flesh, and the end of days. When we talk about the wife of harlotry, which is in other words a word for prostitute, okay? And we're not talking about the physical prostitute. When we talk about in terms of prostitute, the left, when we spoke about the left side, which is represented by the aspect of the female, the left side always refers to the world of physicality. It's our body. So we talk about the world of the nukva, the female aspect. Our body's female aspect is the desire to receive. It's the vessel. The male aspect is the right side. Okay. So we talk about the prostitute. It means there is a disconnect between the body and the soul. The body goes to prostitute after other forces. So when we talk about unity between the male and female, that's when we talk about Shabbat. When we talk about Friday night, there is unity between the body and the soul. It's like we are the body when we are celebrating a wedding on the Friday night, on the Sabbath, between us and Source. There's wedding, there's unity between the two. So the prostitution of that we're talking about is the body goes not after the desires of the souls. The body is focused on the desires of the body.
Want.
Just for the body for itself. So the negative expression of that is like, I just do whatever I feel like doing. I have free will, I'm just going to do whatever I want because my body wants that, right? You heard that. Oh, my body wants so who's in charge? You or your body?
My
right?
body wants meat.
My body, yeah, I heard it so many times. My body wants this, and so my body, missing to my body. So who's in charge? You or your body? Above the body, there's a rulership, there's high rulership. The body is underneath the dominion of the soul. So when we talk about that prostitution, it means the body is serving other interests, not the higher interest. So there is no that unity, there is no commitment between those two aspects. The body is to serve the soul, not just to serve the needs of the body. So this is what we're talking about here, okay? So even when we talk about, the different aspects of us going to the darkness to go with the bungee cord, we're not trapped by those forces. We can see those influences or seductions or opportunities, but we go there with a mindful ability and consciousness, not to be falling into the trap, so to speak. Okay? Thank you to the Mount Shasta water. Yes. Are we doing with the time, Maya?
15 more minutes.
15. Wow. Okay, let's hurry up. By the way, in Hebrew, the word for prostitute is zona. Zona comes from the word lazun. It means zan means sustenance. So when we talk about a prostitute, on a physical level, if a person goes to a prostitute, she feeds him with something.
Yeah.
She feeds his physical desire to receive immediate pleasure. But we know that on an energetic level, the payback is really bad. But so on the immediate aspect that the person receives, whether it's a male or female prostitute, both ways. But when a person goes to fulfill that physical desire, that's the attribute of it. Lazun, it means the sustenance. Also, it's called yatzanit. In Hebrew, yatzanit from the word yatzah. She went out from the side of holiness. So when our physical body, God forbid, goes to become a yatzanit, going outside of the holiness, it's not a good way to go in this direction. Even maintaining the holiness of our body, because we know that the body is the temple of the soul. So honoring that and creating the unity, maintaining the unity between the two, this is what the spiritual work is all about. It's not just by being in the cave, but also bridging these two worlds from the understanding that we have a purpose here. We have a high purpose as human beings within the physical vessel.
And be aware what's going inside the body and what's going outside the body.
Exactly.
It's kind of
Exactly. Absolutely.
being the master of it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not easy to do it.
Yeah. So let's read about the warning signs. Okay, let's how we recognize warning signs.
Perfect for this week.
Yes. Okay. תיקונין דילה לפתאה לבני נשה, שערها מתקנין סומקן כברדה, אנפها חיברין וסומקין, בעודנها תליין שיטה תיקונין, אתונה דמצרים תליין על כדלها כל חילי דארעה דקדם, פיה מתתקנה בפתיחו דקיק יאה בתיקונها, לשנה חדידה כחרבה, שעיען מילאה כמשחה, שפבها יען סומקין כברדה, מתיקו בכל מתיקו דעלמה, ארגבנה לבשת התתקנת ב40 תיקונין חסר חד. By the way, part of the reason we are reading certain verses here, that each verse that I'm reading have energy. So it's not just about us intellectually understanding what we're reading, but also when I talk about warning signs, when you listen to this text, you receive the download to start recognize things if they come your way. It's not just about you listening and intellectual understanding. You may not, sometimes I don't understand everything I read, but the energy here is everything we're talking about. It gives you kind of the downloads. That's what it's about. So we talk about warning signs of those negative temptations or negative influences. We receive this download. So it's really good also to listen to the Aramaic text. That's part of it. Okay? Translation. When we talk about her, it's not about the female. It's about the attribute of the left side, which is not about gender. So nothing about women or men here. Okay? Her seductive features include her hair, which is red as a rose, and her face, which is white and red. In her ears there are 6 earrings of Egyptian fabric. On her neck hang all the powers of the eastern lands. Her mouth is decorated by a small slit of comely shape. Her tongue is sharp as a sword. Her speech is smooth as oil, and her lips as beautiful as red as a rose. Wearing purple and having 40 decorations less one, she is sweeter than all that is sweet in the world. So what we learn here, like again, the hair, the lips, everything, the earrings are all codes. Talk about Egypt, it's a code name for idol worship. It's not about the land of Egypt. It was there, but it's all codes right now. So what we learn here, that the first thing that we want to be aware is that everything that appears in this physical reality, it's not as we always think is what it looks like. So it may appear sweet and beautiful and everything. So we have to start to learn to not to be affected by what we see with our eyes. What we always have to understand is to see what is the thought behind what is coming in front of us. What's the purpose? Okay? So if you're single and if you're offered to have a fast and easy sex, right, which can come handy to a lot of people, you have to ask yourself, what's the purpose of that? Why this comes to you? Let's say you didn't have
Physical
sex.
pleasure.
Physical pleasure, but what's the price you pay? We're all humans, we have physical desire, etc. But we have to become aware of those things that happening to us, especially when we have to preserve our own holiness, because they may appear, they may be packaged. It can be in the form of business. You come in, somebody offers you some very lucrative business deal, or offers you something that it might look very shiny and brilliant, but you have to go underneath, see what's underneath it. In other words, we have to learn to see, to crack through the appearance of physicality. That's very important, to start to be able to pierce through that. Not everything that appears to us in such a beautiful package is what we think. That's why the power of restriction is how we say, okay, not now. Oh, we stop, and we want to spend more time to evaluate what's coming in front of us. Okay? Now, how do we evaluate if what we desire is good or bad? Like, let's say we have a certain desire to achieve or to do something. How do we know if it's good or bad for us?
Yeah, or like what's unholy about our physical desires and what's holy.
It's not just about physical, it's every desire we have. Physical is part of it. But how do we know? We know it by the purpose of it and what it brings to us. Okay, we evaluate what's the purpose of what is given in front of us. Okay? So if we offer to have something very satisfying physically, but we know it's just going to satisfy some physical desire. Let's say you maintain very healthy diet, and then you go and somebody offers you this amazing feast, but you know it's very, very unhealthy for you. So you ask yourself, what's the purpose of me eating that? Because if you maintain certain nutrition, because you know that even food affects your thoughts and your gut flora and your emotions, but you have this beautiful feast in front of you, but you know the purpose of it is not necessarily to benefit you. So always ask, what's the purpose behind it? That's how you evaluate if it's good or bad for you. If it's a higher purpose that's going to bring you closer,
Let's connect to source, to light.
is it going to make you closer to source? Fine. Even wine, talk about wine. Like in Shabbat, it is encouraged to drink some wine. I don't drink wine, but some people enjoy wine. So you can abuse wine, but you can enjoy it to a certain level. It can be abused. Anything, even sacred medicine, it can be also, if you do it with the right consciousness, in a sacred environment, with the right people, why not? But it can be abused. So always ask yourself, what is given in front of you, what's the purpose? If it's for a higher purpose, go for it. With the preparation, with the right environment, why not? It's wonderful. Okay, but if it's just because I just want to get high, I just want to get crazy, I just want to whatever, just because I want to satiate some physical desires, it's not higher purpose.
So it's basically either it's selfish desire or higher
For a
desire.
higher purpose, yeah.
It's
yeah,
very
exactly.
simple.
Yeah. Because all the sacred plants, the alcohol, whatever, even the wine is given, it can be used in a sacred way, in a sacred way. On Shabbat, they bless on the wine, they drink. On Passover, they get drunk. On Purim, they get really drunk. You know? But it's not for a purpose of abusing things, not for abusing. So always ask yourself, what's the purpose behind it? Okay? Now we are the way, and also remember that we are in this realm, we're not disconnected from higher forces. We're always, there's higher forces who observe how we progress. And they're here to help us. If we ask for help, we always receive help. If we ask to go impure, we also receive help. To be impure. If a person asks to be defiled, they get immediate help.
Oh yeah. They're
So always
waiting.
ask. Remember,
The entity is waiting for
they're
it
just waiting. So
to do their job.
always remember, there's like angels to serve you, but there's also negative angels to also to serve you.
Yeah.
So just remember who you're asking for. So we're always evaluated by the purpose of our actions, not just by our intentions, not by our talents, by our looks, or by the fame we achieve. It's always what actions we do and for what purpose. Like if you say you want to go, you want to give a donation because you want your name to be on a plaque in the park. If that's your purpose, it's not very high. It's not a very high intention. It may be a great action, but the intention is not very high. Nevertheless, you give some money, you support something, but also see for what purpose you're doing those things, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it's saying in Kabbalah that the highest form of charity, nobody knows that you did that actually. Nobody even knows about it. That's the highest form of that, because you don't receive like your name on a big poster, you know, or they make your statue in the middle of the city because you give $1 million to the city of Mount Shasta or something like that, right? It's always remember, keep that in mind. And everything is really starts with our thought. So part of what we learned this week is we become more mindful with our awareness. Like we can start having some thought that can take us to actions, but if we can stop ourselves in the level of the this thought, not the right direction, I'm going back. I just went to Haran, I'm going back to Beersheba. You know, unless you want to go there because you want there's something for you to clarify in your mind. Sometimes, you know, I go to meditation retreat and I see myself going to very dark places deliberately, but I go there for the purpose to cleanse them. Like I sit and I meditate, and then I see like I'm going in my meditation, I start to see like very negative things from my past lives, and I see them, and I keep going. I keep going until I see the end, and then I see, okay, why I created those things, what's the purpose, and then I come to a place, okay, now I'm going to clear them. I'm going to clean those things. So there's also a safe environment, like even if you do a medicine work, sometimes you do because, you know, I have some issues, maybe I'm going to do this medicine work because I want to go to the depth. People, I've seen the documentary about ayahuasca, people go there, because they have some demons, they want to face them, and they're going for it.
Sick physically,
and they provide the safe environment with the shaman, provided it's a good shaman, safe environment, so there's no like any inchy-binchy entity that's going to come and jump on board. So they create the environment to people to go and to deal with their demons for the purpose of clearing them. Sometimes it's required to do that. But if we're in a place of where, okay, we did some work, but if we're jumping back to negative habits, that's a different story. So okay, I used to do that in the past. Right now I'm going there. No, I'm going to stop it right there, in the thought level, the seed level. Because when you achieve the depth of experience, if your mind goes there because maybe it's an old habit, you can stop it right there. You don't have to go there again. You already mastered that level. How are we doing with the time?
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. All right. Okay. Verse 119. We have a couple more, so we're good with the
Is
time.
it really?
It's
I
very
don't feel
hot,
it.
actually.
Really? Do you feel it?
I feel it, but
Okay,
it's
because
coming
I'm
right
sitting
here.
underneath, so it's going
But
cold
it's-
coming here.
It's pretty hot, actually.
Ventilation. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
119. Talking about
It's got
charity.
upset.
Okay, talking about charity.
Complain.
עושה צדקה בכל עת, וכי בכל עת יכיל ברנש למעבד צדקה. אלא מאן דהשתדל באורחוי דאורייתא ועבד צדקה. אם אינון דהצטריכו לה, דכל מאן דעבד צדקה עם מסכנה. אסגי ההיא צדקה לעילה ותתה. Translation. And do righteousness at all times. He asks, can really a person possibly do righteous deeds all the time? Is it really possible? He answers, he, bless you, he or she who walks in the path of the Torah and wisdom and performs righteous deeds for those who need them is judged to be performing righteousness at all times. For whoever is charitable to the poor increases righteousness, namely the nukva called righteousness above and below, by bringing about a union of a male and a female. Again, the right and the left. It's not about the gender. It's previous page. The union between the right and the left, the male and the female. By bringing those two together above and the pouring of plenty of blessings downward. So now we got an even deeper understanding about when Yaakov, he went to the dark side. He went there for the purpose to illuminate that with light. He saw a place of a lack. And he went there to feel it like you went to Standing Rock. That's why
I left my kid for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
There was nothing rational. Like,
I know.
This stops now.
Absolutely. So you see a lot of people went there, they know they're going to a very negative place for the purpose to bringing light to this place. See? It's not because it was comfortable, but they came equipped and armed with spiritual wisdom, with tools, with support of a community of people. They went for the darkness, to the darkest place to bring that energy. And they succeeded. Yeah, but it's not done. It's not over. Just don't get it from the illusion. We're done.
Sure.
It's just the beginning. So what we learn here that
was a warm-up.
It was a warm-up. It was a good practice. So the realm of physicality, Malchut, the Nukva, like we said, it has no light of its own. The body does not have its own energy. So yes, we receive sustenance from the universe to maintain our breathing, or physical operation, digestion, all that stuff. But there's much more sustenance that is needed in this reality. So when we talk about being a righteous person in this reality or a charitable person, it means we see where is the lack, whereas we give the money to the person. But the real wisdom is not just like Jesus said, give a fish to the person or teach them how to fish, or I like the vegan version, don't give them a tomato, teach them how to grow the tomato. You know? So it's really how you give the people the ability. Huh?
That's easier.
That's better.
To grow the fish and to find the fish.
Exactly. So we're here to add energy. We're here to be, like we said, transmitters of energy, like magicians.
Creators.
So we're here to add energy, and our job, the more we add power to the world by our actions, by sharing wisdom, the more we are actually being forces of influence in this reality. So if you leave, I remember the story about this really wealthy person from Florida, forgot what city, and he saw this very poor neighborhood, and he was a white person, it was black, kind of ghetto, and he adopted this environment, his entire, I forgot his name, it's an amazing story, I saw it on the news, and he decided to adopt this neighborhood, and he basically not just gave them money, but he gave scholarship to children. It's not just giving them money, because if you feed a person on Thanksgiving, you give them food, that's wonderful. But most probably this person is going to come next year again, they're going to ask you for food again. But if you actually not just feeding them, you give them tools.
Help them to find job or something.
You give them job, or maybe you teach them how to become creators in their life. So next year when they come, they actually not needing the meal, they're actually standing next to you, they're helping to serve other people. That's really success. So when you bring sustenance to this reality, you bring energy. That's what we're here for. Not just money, it's good to donate, but when you actually empower the other people, when you donate them, give them the money, that's really the highest level. Not just, oh, you're hungry, let me give you money, buy food. It's nice, but it's just kind of, you give them the pill for the headache, but you're not really dealing with the root cause. What's the root cause of poverty in this reality? The root cause is basically we want to resolve real poverty in this reality, which means we are bringing sustenance of energy. Malchut, we say it's physical reality. The sustenance is energy. So when we are overcoming, the reason we have poverty, because there's poverty of energy. There is disconnection of energy. So the reason some people are poor is because we have the opportunity for those who have money or resources, so we can allow them to receive
We are
that.
custodians.
We're the custodians of the energy.
It's not our money.
Exactly.
Some people got more money because they are custodians, and
Yep.
unfortunately they just keep for themselves
Yep.
mostly.
So it's really what it's about.
I learned like a key for like that constant receiving is it's like 20 to 30% you're always giving.
Yeah, 20%.
20, Kabbalistically, we learn 20%
No
is
more
the
than
maximum.
20.
Don't give more than 20.
Yeah, then it takes
20
from your energy.
Exactly.
From your,
So whatever you make is good to give after
10 to 20, no
20% from your profit. So whatever is your net profit from what is left for after your expenses, from that 10 to 20% you give, because that allows continuity in the system. Okay, last verse before we finish. Verse number 281. So we are on the time here. 281. תחזה דיעקב הכי השתדל לגבי עשיו, בגין דההוא סתרה דילה להתחכמה עלוי ולמיזל עמי בעקימו, בכל מה דהצטריך בגין לשלטאה עלוי ברישה וסופה, וחולה כדקאיות, ורישה וסופה כחדה, דה כגוונה דה, כמה דכתיב בכורתי ולבטר ברכתי, שירותה וסופה כחדה, דה כגוונה דה, בגין לשלטאה עלוי באורח מישב, כדקה חזה אלי, ובגין כך זכאה איהו, מן דהשתזב מיניהו ויחל לשלטאה עליהו. Translation. Come and behold, this is what Jacob did to subdue and to control, to deceive and outwit Esau, which is the dark forces. Now we know the secret what he did. It was needed in order to rule over him in the beginning and at the end, so that all will be as ought to be, which means we are in charge. The good is controlling the dark side. This is how it should be. The beginning and the end were as one, each resembling the other, as it's written, in the beginning my birthright. In Hebrew, birthright is bechorah. Okay, it means because we know that Esau represents, he was the firstborn, and Yaakov was the secondborn. We know that in this reality, who have the priority? Physicality. So that's why Esau represents the firstborn. So it have the priority, but we need to physicality, the desire to receive for the self alone, have the birthright. But we are here to be like Yaakov. We're here to trick it. So we take away that birthright. We have to be very wise. We have to be very smart and witty. Okay?
So that means, okay, first it's a physicality. Okay, you're hungry, you have to eat, right?
Yes.
You're thirsty, you have to drink. So that's it. Not more than that. That's the meaning. Like, don't
it's not
worship the body.
It's not
Give
just about the body.
necessary.
The body represents desire to receive for the self alone. So when we talk about Yaakov tricking the other side, it means we learn how to deal with our desire to receive for the self alone. Okay, so we need what we give to it, the minimum to sustain it.
Right.
But we create continuity. We don't stay there. I'm gonna feed the body because all I have this reality is my body. Of course not.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is the birthright, which is bechorah in Hebrew. And then, in the end, my blessing, birchati. The word bracha and bechorah comes from the same word,
Levarech.
levarech. Bechorah and bracha is the same word.
Blessing.
Okay?
Baruch.
Baruch means blessed. So bechorah, it means the firstborn. So what it means, they are written using the same letters because the beginning and the end were one and the same. The purpose of all this was to dominate him by the right means as befits him. Happy is he or she who escapes the other side and can govern it. So what we learn here is really the essence of the wisdom of Yaakov, which is the Yaakov in each and every one of us. We're constantly on the guard of that force within us. We're not here to kill it, we're here to subdue it, to control it. And when we need to trick it, you have to trick it. Like when you have a child, if you want to trick your child to eat vegetables, you say, oh, if you eat vegetables, then you're going to have the cake at the end. So they're going to eat the vegetables. So you have to be strategic a little bit. Sometimes
yeah.
when you deal with certain people in the world of commerce or business, you recognize that desire to receive for the self alone, you have to trick them. You have to give them something that they want in a way. Okay, you have to be always using strategy. So
In your case, think what they want from you.
What did you say about stealing a little while ago?
well, we spoke about it last week. Jacob, he stole the birthright from his brother. It's not about you go and steal something, but those forces.
He actually made a deal. He gave him a soup exchange.
Well, it's metaphorical.
Metaphorically, but he
it's not
didn't
physical.
really.
The whole thing is when you deal with the other side is represented by the ego, the negative ego, pride. So let's say you're dealing with some force or a person or entity or some business or whatever,
Or system.
or a system, what they want. So for them, the most important thing is their pride, their ego, the big name, and how much money they have.
To be right.
To be right. So give them what they want. But you have to be strategical how you give it to them so you can control, because you have to be, the upper hand has to be of the good forces in this reality. We have to learn how to dominate. So that's really what the essence of this teaching of this week is about. So I think we are.
And VaYetze says when you bless before and after eating, you combined the body and soul, while soul guide and rule.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the blessing is like, thank you, Aviad. So the blessing, that why do we bless the water? Why do we bless the food when we do? In Hebrew, we have a blessing for everything. So why do we bless? Because the physical matter, like we'll learn, is empty shell. When we put our blessing into it, we inject holiness into that. So even the dark side, we should bless it with light. We bless it. We don't curse it, because when we curse it, it becomes like this, like that negativity. So when we bless it with light, we inject positivity into it. That's how we transmit it.
You don't have to agree with them, but we can bless them.
Even
Yeah,
those
thank
people.
them,
right?
Thank them, because they're just giving us opportunity to expand our light more.
Thank you. Exactly. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate if you guys would like, we have this recording available on my wall, also the Mount Shasta study group page. We have a donate button, so you're welcome to make a donation if you like. And see you next week. Thank
Shalom from Mount Shasta.
you. Shalom from Mount Shasta.
Thank you,
Shalom.
Baruch.
You're welcome. Thank you.
תודה רבה.